Sometimes, in the most unexpected corners of the world, you stumble into friendship. During my 14-month journey through Latin America, I lived in a quaint little village in the Sacred Valley of Peru for a few weeks. While exploring the cobblestone streets of my new home, I met Mariana, who was just walking out of her front door as I passed by. Mariana was a 37-year-old solo traveler from Mexico, volunteering at a local hotel. She worked remotely as an English teacher and was learning French on the side. She just accepted a teaching job in Brazil and was excited about learning Portuguese. I'm not sure how I'd ever manage to learn two languages at the same time, but she was eager for the challenge. Mariana and I only lived a 5-minute walk from each other. I saw her almost every day for either lunch or dinner. One night, we went to a resto bar and ordered chicken wings in 2 different sauces. I was surprised when the platter arrived with a generous serving of chicken gizzards. Mariana ordered salchipapas, which was French fries cooked with sliced sausages. She told me she grew up Catholic, but was no longer religious. Her faith shattered after visiting an ancient convent museum in Mexico. The tour guide said when archaeologists excavated the convent, they found a collection of preserved fetuses in the basement. Allegedly, they were the aborted or miscarried fetuses of nuns who got pregnant by men of the clergy. Mariana was no longer a faithful Catholic after that. She now saw God as energy. Perhaps it was the energy that caused the Big Bang and created the universe. After all, something had to, she said. When it was time to pay the bill, a local man at the bar asked me where I was from. It was only 7:30 p.m., but he appeared to be very drunk. I soberly replied, China. He nodded with enthusiasm, but then followed up with another inquiry. But what about Japan? He asked. Excellent question. Mariana and I walked home in the dark, careful not to trip on the cobblestone streets. The sound of water rushing through the village canals filled the air. I wondered if drunk people have been falling into them for thousands of years. Within a week, Mariana and I had our favorite eating spots. The best meal we had was trout ceviche and a main course with 3 small steaks of lamb, beef, and alpaca. Alpaca wasn't as gamey as I expected. It's actually leaner than beef, with less saturated fat and cholesterol. The meal included a small green salad with a giant piece of avocado, a dish of ají verde, which is a sauce made with peppers, cilantro, and lime juice, and a side of Andean fries, which was regular fries but made with local potatoes. I noticed many restaurants use this clever marketing tactic on their menus to intrigue tourists. Potatoes actually originated in Peru, which has over 4,000 varieties. There was a group of tourists at the table behind us, and I couldn't help but eavesdrop on their conversation. They were all American women and looked to be in their late 40s and 50s. They came to the Sacred Valley for a workshop on feminine sexual energy. My attention caught on the phrase, "Did you know men can ejaculate out of their anus?" I messaged one of my gay friends in Mexico City to confirm this, and he said no, that was not true. One of my housemates was an American woman named Lily. After getting a degree in biology, Lily planned to go to medical school and become a doctor as a default career path. She wanted to help people, but she didn't like the idea of spending so many years of her youth in school without seeing the world. She took a closer look at her options, found this healthcare-focused NGO, and came to the Sacred Valley. She told me about a former Peruvian president called Alberto Fujimori, a name I've never heard before. In the 1990s, he ordered the forced sterilization of over 300,000 indigenous women. He targeted women who were considered part of Peru's poor and disenfranchised community. They were unnecessary burdens to Peru, and it would be convenient to exterminate them. Most of the personnel hired to perform the sterilizations were not properly trained. Much of the equipment used was outdated or poor quality, and the counseling services provided to patients were also done by poorly trained staff. This resulted in a smaller, younger generation that could not provide economic stimulation to rural areas, making these regions even more impoverished. Fujimori was convicted for crimes against humanity and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He was released after 16 years, after being pardoned on, ironically, humanitarian grounds. Lily's job at the NGO was to help educate indigenous people on health and hygiene. She said the main source of their illnesses came from not washing their food before eating it. The reasoning was that since the food came from the earth, there's no reason to wash the earth from the food. This, of course, caused bacterial infections, parasites, and gastrointestinal issues. Her proudest achievement was making a pamphlet explaining the menstrual cycle to young women. Lily recalled an instance when a different NGO built modern concrete houses with indoor plumbing. The intention was to provide the indigenous people the convenience of showering and using the toilet inside their homes. The project was a complete flop. The local people preferred to live in their traditional mud brick homes and continued using the toilet outdoors because to them it was more hygienic. The luxurious NGO homes were used as storage units. A year and a half later, Lily was ready to return to the United States. She believed she made progress helping the indigenous people, but also felt she was no longer growing in her career. Her resignation was met by hostility from the locals. They accused her of abandoning a noble cause in favor of making money. But her mind was made up. She needed to move on. We went to her favorite restaurant in the village. I ordered whole roasted trout with Andean herbs. Lily ordered cuy, which was guinea pig, and her favorite Peruvian dish. She let me have a bite. The flavor faintly reminded me of duck. It's possibly the most exotic food I tried on this Latin America trip. Cuy is eaten in both Peru and Ecuador, but it isn't a widely popular dish, probably due to its controversial nature. Afterwards, we went to a coffee shop whose specialty was using milk from a local cow in their drinks. Lily told me a strange tale about a former resident of our cottage. He was from England and believed himself to be a channel for alien communication. He first lived in another village in the Sacred Valley that unfortunately already had its own alien communicator. After many unsuccessful attempts to discredit her and crown himself as the true oracle, he decided to move to a different village where he may have a breakthrough. He lived in the cottage with Lily for 5 months and took ayahuasca in hopes of deepening his alien interpretation skills. Lily said he acted even more unhinged afterwards. I asked if she ever felt unsafe living with someone so unstable. She replied no. He was simply a socially unpleasant housemate who talked on and on about subjects she had no interest in. Apparently, he is a popular social media star now and receives a generous amount in donations. Mariana volunteered at a hotel where she received free room and board. One of the other volunteers was a Brazilian woman named Clara, who invited me to a San Pedro ceremony that weekend, which she described as ayahuasca's lighter, gentler cousin. The 3 of us went to a restaurant by the train station which Clara claimed had the best brownie in the Sacred Valley. It was indeed scrumptious. She ordered chicha morada, which is a Peruvian drink made of purple corn, sugar, and spices. I tried a sip. It looked and tasted like a blueberry smoothie. The original alcoholic version is made with fermented maize, but I don't drink alcohol, so I never tried it. Mariana and Clara exuded a youthful, free-spirited attitude towards life. I was shocked to discover they were both divorcees. Mariana had 2 miscarriages from her marriage. The second one nearly killed her. Clara was 36 and technically still married, but traveled the world like a single woman. She was born and raised in Sao Paulo, where she met her Irish husband. They moved to Australia, and then London, where she worked as an accountant for 9 years. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't picture this beautiful, carefree woman as an accountant in London. Clara was bored with her marriage. One day, she did magic mushrooms with a friend, which led to them having sex. Afterwards, she told her husband it was over, quit her job, and went to India to study yoga. Afterwards, she made her way to the Sacred Valley and planned on returning to Brazil to visit her family. I wondered if Clara was bored with her life now. She seemed restless and far from content. Perhaps she got married too early, rushing into a commitment before truly understanding herself. Or perhaps she realized she married the wrong man. Or maybe some women weren't cut out to be wives, like some men weren't cut out to be husbands. It's also possible that this was just a break from their marriage, and she will reunite with her husband when she's ready to return. After all, marriage is hardly a fairy tale. There are inevitable twists and turns, and challenges that test the strongest bonds. I just finished reading Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. The story follows Holly Golightly, a beautiful socialite in New York City. She longs for a life of wealth and sophistication, but her glamorous facade hides a past she desperately wants to escape. The novel and the Hollywood film have different endings. I prefer the novel's melancholic, open-ended conclusion. In my opinion, stories with happy, conclusive endings feel dishonest in their portrayal of life. I had never heard of the San Pedro cactus before. It's a psychedelic plant medicine native to the Andes Mountains. The ceremony was held next door to Mariana and Clara's volunteer site, a hotel owned by a Scottish woman living in Edinburgh. Her Peruvian ex-husband, father of their 2 children, resided in the neighboring house. His name was Cristiano, and he was the facilitator of the ceremony. I found out later he was also Clara's lover. Cristiano was tall, with silky, black hair that fell past his waist. His property included a small house, a ceremonial tent, and a sweat lodge. There were 4 of us participating: Lily, Clara, Clara's friend from Argentina, and myself. We sat around a fire inside the tent with the smell of Palo Santo all around us. Palo Santo is a type of wood from a tree native to Peru, used for centuries by indigenous cultures for its spiritual and cleansing properties, and it smells delightful. The fragrant smoke made my eyes water. One by one, we drank the plant medicine. It tasted like grilled nopales I had back in Mexico, except in a slimy, liquid form. It took about 2 hours to take effect, and we lounged around the garden with the Incan ruins watching over us, waiting for the magic to happen. I won't speak more about my experience other than it was a positive one and conducted in a safe, private environment as it should be. I've developed a mistrust in anyone who claims to be a spiritual authority figure, with the exception of the late Thich Nhat Hanh. I saw Cristiano as someone I hired to provide a professional service like a barber or a plumber, and trusted him no further than that. Mariana later confided in me that the hotel staff had revealed Cristiano was violent and unfaithful to his Scottish ex-wife during their marriage. She took her 2 teenage daughters and returned to her country. I wondered 2 things. 1, what did Scottish Peruvian children look like? And 2, Did Cristiano become a spiritual guide during his marriage or afterwards? Clara swore he never showed a hint of violence in his personality, so perhaps dabbling in plant medicine changed him for the better. He also had a newborn son from a woman from the neighboring town who would bring the baby to him every Sunday. I hope he sent her money. We each paid $100 for the San Pedro ceremony. That goes a long way if you're living the village life in Latin America. I took a higher dose than everyone else, so by the time the other girls were back to normal, I was still experiencing mild hallucinations in the ceremonial tent. I decided to go home and wait out the effects from the safety of my bedroom, and left the girls chatting about life's mysteries by the open fire. I woke up the next day smelling like smoke and felt a renewed sense of confidence in my strength, intelligence, and creative abilities. I spent the day relaxing with Mariana, who had many questions about my experience. We lounged in our hammocks, sipped herbal tea, and gazed up at the Incan ruins. I was going to Machu Picchu the next morning. I couldn't help but ponder the ingenuity of the Incan people. In an era long before the wheel was invented, they constructed monumental cities, carved intricate terraces into the mountainside, and developed sophisticated systems of architecture. Human beings, despite our flaws and limitations, are truly remarkable. The Sacred Valley of Peru is a beautiful part of the world, but there's more than meets the eye. Find out more about the shocking and sometimes scandalous lives of locals and foreigners who reside in this peaceful village in this video.